Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
How's the punters? Welcome back to Best Sports Betting. And in today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about our recent visit to Sunbet. We're going to be taking a look at the Premier League season. We're going to be chatting about some golf, the F1 recap at Monaco. We're going to be having a quick look at the French Open, and then we're going to be talking about the big events coming up, which is the Europa League final and the Champions League final, where we're going to be giving our best bets and whatnot towards the end of the show. Simon, let's start off with our visit to Sunbet at Grandwest last week. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I was with that. So Sunbet at Grandwest, Sun International Casino. It was a pretty interesting visit. We popped up an article on BSB. It was kind of disappointing to go to a casino and have to go through all these COVID protocol checks. And then we needed to get, or you needed to get an MVG card just to access the casino. And I needed to get a new card. So literally you can't even go into the casino on the casino floor without a card.
Yeah, it was a little bit inhibiting, I must say. I suppose any of our listeners who has perhaps also been to a land-based casino, since COVID kicked in, will know that things look very different, and there are obviously a lot of regulations in place, which are obviously necessary. But at the same time, it really kind of takes away from the experience, I feel. So as you mentioned, I mean, the fact that you can't just walk onto the casino floor, with some money in your pocket and just, throw it into a slot machine and start playing is a bit inhibiting. And the fact that you need an MVG card, everyone needs a card now. So, which is also, that's just, it just takes time. And, that kind of feeling when you walk onto the casino floor and you kind of, you're ready to play, it just doesn't work like that anymore. So I think, with online betting, especially being so prevalent these days in South Africa and across the world, really, I just think that the casinos really need to, I think, reinvent themselves in some way. And I don't necessarily have all the answers to that. But I just think that with it being so easy to gamble online, making it even more difficult for customers to play in person is not very good. So it wasn't the best experience, and to be honest, I don't think I'll be rushing back anytime soon.
Yeah, like to put into some perspective, for all the time we wasted just trying to get into casino, I could have opened up an online sports betting account at somewhere like Betway, Hollywood Bets, even Sunbet. I could have made my first deposit. Probably could have sent in all my FICA docs, all of that stuff, and I could be actually placing bets on live games or sports or whatever it is, while we're waiting for them to print the MVG card and do all of that. But the actual lounge itself was alright. It is an upgrade on what was there before. The lounge is still the same lounge it's always been with the layout. It's just received quite a big facelift. I think that's probably the best description. It's a nice place to go to. I mean, if I'm in the casino, I'll go there. Would I go there otherwise? No, probably not. I bet online. But I think it's nice. It's a nice option to have for casino punters. What I didn't like is in the past, and I'm not sure how true this still is, because I haven't been there over the weekend and I didn't ask anyone. But they used to serve food. It used to be quite a pumping place. Used to go there. Used to go there to have a break from the casino, have a dope, watch some sports, watch some horse racing or some rugby or something like that. It used to be such a lekker place. I think COVID's just killed all of that off. And it's going to be difficult for, as you said, for casinos to reinvent themselves. I'm surprised that they are taking so long to do this. But at South Africa, retail betting is still going to be a thing for a while, I think, as we can see with the shops, etc. But enough about that. Let's talk about a new live game that's come out, Simon. Gonzo's Treasure Hunt specifically, and it's a pretty fun game. I've been playing it quite a lot. It was very difficult to understand at first. I really had no clue what was going on, but several hours later, several thousand rands of bets later as well, and I'll have a much better idea. And I was actually having some bets up to $2,000 a hand the other day. I was trying to make a video because the return to play is not so bad, or in the sense of it's pretty high, and you're only losing like 100 or 200 rand, and the worst case is you lose like 300-400 rand on one of those big bets.
Sure.
But it's not entertaining watching the same thing over and over, no matter what the bet size is. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I really like it. It's the first game that kind of brings together live and slots style gameplay, which is really nice. I mean, you have anyone who's played Monopoly Live will know about the sort of augmented reality aspect that can be brought into some of these Evolution Live games. Like with the Mr. Monopoly Man. Well, you have a similar thing here with Gonzo, who's your sort of trusty sidekick, who's the Spanish explorer who helps you dig for treasure on the treasure wall. Yeah, it's a cool game. I mean, as you said, it's a little bit complicated at first. Working out just how the stones work and the picks and just trying to get all that sort of around, get your head around all that can be a little bit tricky at first. But once you get into it, it's actually really cool. And it's worth the wait in learning to play. Yeah, and we wrote up a guide for this game on bettingguide.co.za, so you can check that out, and we got some cool tips and strategies you can use to play the game in that guide. So yeah, just pop the word Gonzo into the search bar at the top of bettingguide.co.za and you'll see the guide.
And yeah, what I like about the game is also what you mentioned about that it's a kind of hybrid between a slots game and a sort of, I want to say, a wheels game, a live wheel game, because it kind of is with your particular slots. You've got six different slots rather, or 6 different segments that you can bet on. So 1, 2, 5, 8, 20, or 10, or 10, 20, and then I think it's the 65. But what's nice about it is it kind of breaks the wheel the wheel games that they've been pumping out. I mean, we've had Dreamcatcher, we had Monopoly Live, and we had Crazy Time, and this is just a nice change in that sense. Yeah,
it's kind of like playing a bonus game within a slot game.
Yes.
That it has that sort of feel like you sort of playing a real life bonus game or bonus round within a slot, which is really cool. It's very different, and it really brings something new to the table, I feel.
Yeah, and we still have so many wheel games to choose from, so hopefully we can get some more cool games like this from Evolution in the future. It is very complicated, as we mentioned, so go check out those write-ups on Betting Guide and Best Sports Betting if you are looking for some tips. There is also a kind of how to play section that explains the game in a basic sense when you start the game. Also something to consider if you are going to be checking it out for the first time. Right, Simon, let's jump over to some sports. The EPL, it's finished, it's done. City are our champions. The top 4 has been settled. Arsenal have qualified for the MTN 8 next season. And not much else to talk about. I've got the odds up in front of me for the next season. We've got yesterday when we tried to do the podcast and we had some technical issues. The Man City were, I think, 1.6. They've now dropped to 1.54 for the Premier League next season. Absolutely crazy, I think. I mean, Man United are 8 or 9.0. I'd rather take that than take City at 1.54.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the only way, if you want to get with City here, and look, I mean, there's no doubt they're the rightful favourites, but those are crazy odds. I mean, I think anything under even money is kind of ridiculous. But I think, I mean, if you're wanting to back City, I think the only way to really approach this is, hope they have a bad few games in the beginning. Maybe they play some really tough teams that have a really hard schedule, and lose a few games, and then maybe you can kind of grab them at even money or even slightly above even money. But sure, it's a tough market to get into. I mean, as you said, there's a big gap between them and the other 3 teams. So it's quite. I guess they're the rightful favourites. But sure, anyone betting on Man City at those odds are sure that's a big investment.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely nuts. And hopefully, if you're going to be backing City, I'd probably wait until after the Champions League, even if you want to get an early bet down. And see what happens there, because I mean, if you fancy them, you probably want to get it on now. But if you fancy Chelsea might pick an upset, I'm sure that's going to adjust those odds come the days after the Champions League final. I'm sure we'll see Chelsea slip down. Well, not slip down, rather pick up some of the odds on City there. And Simon, going back to the league, I mean, it was an interesting season, not the most exciting one. No crowds, all of that stuff, kind of bit of a bummer in that sense, but hopefully next season is going to have some crowds in it. I think there were some crowds in towards the end of the season the FA Cup? Which?
Yeah, so a lot of the matches were having limited capacity. It just depends on what's really happening there at the time. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy this the final day of the season on the Sunday. It kind of as I mentioned to you, kind of has a feeling of the NFL, where you have many games happening all at the same time on Sunday, which is pretty cool. As you mentioned, I mean, I think looking at the teams, I think Leicester and West Ham, I think, were probably the top performing teams for me. I think they sort of overperformed, what was expected of them. I mean, I think West Ham. I mean, the fact that they finished sixth this season and finished only 2 places above the relegation zone last season, I think is a massive improvement.
Yeah, only 2 points behind the Champions League place this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they did really, really well. It's a pity that Arsenal found their form very late. They won their last 2 games comfortably and actually won 5 of their last 6. They drew 1, but still fell short of European football. So yeah, as you mentioned, I think they do tend to come into form towards the end of the season, but unfortunately this season it was just too little, too late for them. But yeah, I mean, and of course Spurs were nowhere near. So they had an interesting 4-2 game against Leicester, but that still wasn't nearly enough to make them qualify. So I think it'll be interesting to see what things are going to need to be shaken up there big time next season, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with both Arsenal and Spurs next season. Both kind of your European Super League teams that are now languishing in 7th and 8th position. I think Spurs at least qualified for the Europa League, as far as I understand the qualifications, but. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm kind of bummed that Chelsea made it into that 4th position ahead of Leicester. It would have been nice to kind of, and this is strange, like coming from me, but it would be nice to see Leicester finish in I don't know. Although actually, if Chelsea win the Champions League, it doesn't really matter because then Leicester would qualify in that 5th position, wouldn't they?
That's right, because that would take that position. Absolutely right.
So just forget what I was going to say there. But yeah, I memean. Hopefully, I'm very much for City to win the Champions League, but I mean, it would be great to see Leicester in the Champions League, especially after the season they had. I think it would be a nice reward for them. Europa League's not really fun for anyone, if you ask me. One of those kind of Mickey Mouse tournaments that no one actually really wants to be in. But yeah, hey, the money's good. So I'm sure they're not complaining too much, but yeah. Let's jump over to some of the golfing action, Simon, where our lefty picked up his first win in a long time.
Sure. The PGA Championship just keeps on giving us winners which we just don't expect. I mean, as you said, this week Phil Mickelson became the oldest ever player in men's golf to win a major championship, 50 years old. So that's really
he's like
great.
50 going on 70. That guy.
Yeah, so brilliant, great achievement. Yeah, I mean, I always enjoy an oceanside course like Kiawah Island. It's not typically a links course. We're not going to go into that, but it's great because the wind always sort of makes things a bit unpredictable, and watching how the players cope with the elements is always fun to watch. And especially on Friday. I mean, on Friday it got very gusty, and I mean the cut. Obviously, that's when they the end of Friday, the second day's players when they have the cut, and the cut line moved out to 5 over par. So you could see by that the players were really having a tough time. I mean, they were shooting triple and quadruple bogeys like all over the place. From a betting perspective, sure, it really wasn't good for me. I had 5 or 6 bets in the tournament. None of them were really in with the shots on Sunday. Look, it's always really tough finding golf winners, but I took some insurance, which what I thought was insurance, on Xander Schauffele to finish in the top 20 at 9 to 10, and he didn't even make the cut. And I mean, that was actually only the second time he hadn't made the cut in the last 10 majors. So I thought 9 to 10 was actually very decent odds for something that had happened 8 out of 9 times. But yeah, as I said, I think it's great for Phil Mickelson. I mean, it's a huge achievement. When you're competing with guys generally that are like half your age, it's a tough test. I mean, golf might not be the most physically demanding sport, but it's much harder to keep in good shape at 50 years old. And golf has also become far more athletic than it used to be.
Yes.
And people, golfers try to keep in the best shape possible now. to sort of find an edge over their competitors. I mean, most of the best players today they're fit as a fiddle. I mean, obviously not like John Daly, who shot 26 over par in his 2 rounds at Kiawah Island. But generally speaking, golfers are a lot in a lot better physical condition than they used to be. And for someone like Phil Mickelson at 50 years old to compete with the best is really quite impressive.
Yeah, it's become a lot more competitive than it was in the past, and the guys do need to keep in shape to keep up with the youngsters that are coming through, and they are playing golf a lot longer. I mean, I remember years ago I was watching all these old timers. I mean, you had Vijay Singh and all these dudes still featuring, and that was kind of before golf. I don't want to say it became professional, because it's always been professional, but in the sense of it's been a lot more professionally competitive.
Right, absolutely. I think guys are realizing, look, golf is more than probably any other sport a game of fine margins, and if you can, just tone your body and your mind, and have an edge over your competitors, it's going to make a huge difference in the long run, especially when you're playing week in, week out. It definitely is more of an athletic sport than it used to be.
Right, and any golf coming up? Anything noteworthy in the coming weeks?
There is, but I'm taking a bit of a break after a while. I always need a couple of weeks to decompress after a major, especially when I don't win a single bet. So I'm not going to be watching any golf for a while.
Well, Formula One then, and Lewis Hamilton didn't win this weekend. Quite an upset there. Once again, I didn't watch it, but I did get caught up by my F1 following sister. She gave me the breakdown of everything, and it's like quite an interesting race. I did catch some highlights, but obviously not the whole vibe. What did you think of the race in Monaco?
Yeah, well, I mean, Monaco is, and I don't think I stand alone here, is definitely my favorite Grand Prix. It's a street course, which means it has a very kind of different look and feel to a lot of other tracks. And of course, there's the elements of all the celebrities and people watching the race from yachts, and sexy girls and champagne and all that, and Princess Charlene, and so it really is quite a special event, and there's a lot of glitz and glam, which always makes it cool. And then obviously the street course means that it just kind of has this feel more of a kind of like you're playing Need for Speed rather than watching a Grand Prix, which is really cool.
Down there in Monaco, bro.
Right. Absolutely. It's really, really cool. So, but yeah, going back to what actually happened in the race. So last week I actually tipped up Charles Leclerc of Ferrari, who is actually born in Monaco. So this is his home race, to win the race. And he actually qualified in pole position. But unfortunately, in qualifying, he actually damaged his drive shaft, and so he wasn't actually able to enter the race at all. So he didn't actually start, which must have been really devastating for him. I mean, obviously,
especially with that pole,
so rare to get an opportunity to start ahead of Hamilton and Verstappen,
which is really great in Monaco. It's like it's not exactly an overtaking course.
Well, there we go. Exactly. I mean, and I think Hamilton found that out quite quick. Well, not found that out. I'm sure he knows that. But I mean, that he qualified in 7th, which, as you just mentioned, makes it really, really tough to win a race, because overtaking is very tricky. And he didn't even make up one position in the race. So he started in 7th and finished in 7th. And I think part of that was due to bit of race mismanagement from Mercedes, which is a very rare occurrence. I mean, I've been talking them up as the best in the game in that, and they are, but I think they did make a blunder this time. I mean, they put him into the pits on lap 29, which is quite early, and then he got behind Gasly and Vettel and Perez. And, on the hardest Formula One track to overtake, that probably wasn't the best move by Mercedes. So, as I said, unusual case of poor race management, I think, led to Hamilton ending up where he was. And then it didn't get any better for Mercedes, because there was a complete blunder in the pits with Valtteri Bottas. You came in for a pit stop, and they couldn't remove one of his tires because apparently one of the wheel nuts completely lost its thread. They use these very high-powered electric, not a drill, what I guess you want to call it, like a spanner. And it just totally tore the thread off his wheel nut, and so they were stuck there for about a minute. Him just sitting there trying to leave the pits, and eventually they just said, "Oh well, that's it, I guess," and just pulled him out of the race. So,
yeah,
it was really not a great week for Mercedes. But I mean, awesome that there was a mixed podium Verstappen won the race. He was the favorite for Red Bull, and then Carlos Sainz of Ferrari came in second, and Lando Norris of McLaren came in third. So really nice to see a mixed podium, and to see, of course, Mercedes not feature for a change. And that actually, with Verstappen's win in Monaco, that actually puts him ahead of Hamilton by 4 points in the Drivers' Championship.
But so yeah, Hamilton's still heavily favoured for the championship.
Yeah, I don't think. Look, 4 points is not a lot. I mean, it's you can earn up to you can earn more than 20 points in a race depending on what happens. So it's not a lot, but look, it's going to be a tight race regardless. But I think Hamilton is the worthy favourite still. I mean, it's just one race. But it's going to be. I think it's going to be a duel close to the end. The next race is in 2 weeks' time, which is Azerbaijan, which I'm looking forward to, which is actually on my birthday.
Nice. Okay, so hopefully you can get a nice outsider win there.
Yeah.
Right, so enough about the Formula One. We've got some tennis coming up. Roland Garros taking place in France. I haven't looked too much at it. Kind of at the moment, just not all that interested in the tennis that's going on. I'll wait until we get to some tournaments that I like betting on. But it is a big tournament. I'm not going to take anything away from it. But what are your thoughts going into this one, Simon?
Yeah, well, I mentioned last week, I mean, Nadal was the odds-on favorite to win, and he often is. So, a very solid favorite there. But if we try and disregard Nadal, which of course is always difficult to do on clay, Stefanos Tsitsipas is definitely the man in the best form at the moment. He's slightly down the pecking order at 6-1, but he won in Monte Carlo, which was the second clay tournament of the clay season. And then he also won last week in Lyon. So I think aside from Nadal, I would think that he's the man to beat, and I actually favour him over Djokovic. It's
quite a big price difference between Nadal favourite and Stefanos at third favourite. So might be worth a stab at the price, 6-1.
Sure, I think that the 6-1 odds are not the most friendly. I think I would have liked bigger odds on him, but I do think that Stefanos Tsitsipas should be right up there. But on the other hand, there's a long shot that I prefer, and that's the Norwegian Casper Ruud. He's made the semis. He's actually made the semis or better in just about every clay tournament running up to Roland Garros. And he's available at 40-1. So, I mean, you could take him each way and you'll get half the odds if he makes the final. But I think to me, that's a much better value bet than Tsitsipas at 6-1. Look, I mean, Tsitsipas is obviously more likely to get to the final or win, but I just think that those 40-1 odds on a player who's basically been in the top or got to the final four in almost every clay tournament running up to this event, I think is very decent. And then looking at the ladies, you have Iga Swiatek as the bookies' favorite. I mean, as usual, a lot of players down the odds board who could realistically win. But thankfully with clay, they're not quite as many
dominant ladies. Yeah.
Yes, they're not quite as many players who feel as comfortable on clay as other surfaces. So, normally where there literally could be 30 players who could win in the ladies, it's closer to about 15 on the clay because it's just a surface which is a little bit tricky for a lot of players. So, looking at that odds board, I like Muguruza at 11-1. I think
I was just looking at it.
Yeah, from a value perspective, I think that's decent. Look, it's going to be, I think Swiatek and Barty are going to be very hard to beat. And I would not be surprised at all if that's the final. But at 11-1, I think Muguruza looks better value. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the French.
Awesome. I don't think I'm going to be having much bets here again. I like the ladies. I like that Muguruza bet just because it's. I think the field's a lot more open. Serena Williams 20-1. I mean, that could be.
Oh, not for me.
could be worth a bit of a stab. It's just crazy odds. But,
yeah, funny enough, she was the Monaco being the celebrity event it is. She was the one who waved the checkered flag when all the drivers finished the race. To welcome them into the finish earlier. She looked very uncomfortable holding the flag, I must say.
It must be very nice to get invited to Monaco. Maybe we'll be there next year.
Yeah,
like I said, on my rubber dinghy, sipping on some popsuck or something, You can chuck the box at Hamilton if he's too dominant, but yeah. But let's go to the big events for I want to say for the rest of the season really. We've got the Europa League final taking place tonight. It's Villarreal taking on Manchester United. I really fancy United in this one. We've had a little bit of a discussion on this. We were talking about the strength of opposition which Villarreal faced. I feel this price on United is great. I know that the stats aren't very good, but the stats going back on this game go back like 10, 15 years, means nothing. This is a very different, Yellow Submarine side from 2008 and 2005. And the Champions League back then was also a lot more competitive in my opinion. So I'm not going to read anything into those 4-0 draws that every time these teams have faced each other has resulted in.
Yeah.
But this game's going to have 10,000 spectators. It's taking place in a neutral location, and I fancy United at that price. That's just straight up at 1.9. If you can find it, take it.
Yeah, I think the strength of opposition is such a good point. I mean, up until this point, Villarreal have defeated some really crappy teams, to be honest, whereas United have beaten Sociedad, AC Milan, Granada, and Roma, which I mean, two of those sides are high quality sides. So, the only team really that Villarreal have faced up until this point of any quality, and obviously not the best team this season anyway, is Arsenal. And I just think Arsenal really, they just really, really didn't play well that day. So I think that you're getting a slightly inflated price on United because of the fact that Villarreal defeated Arsenal to get here. So, yeah, very interesting, as you mentioned, those 4 matches that will all be 0-0 draws. I wouldn't read too much into that. Both of those were home and away legs of actually 2 Champions League seasons where the 2 teams met. So, and then looking at the injury list, which is always important. I mean, Phil Jones is the only real injury concern right now for United. And Martial and Maguire are questionable, but they might still play. So nothing too much to worry about there. So yeah, I think United get it done here. I think 1.85 is very fair odds on them, and I think that they'll certainly win the league.
So here's a hot stat for you, Simon. The last 6 Europa finals have had an average of 4 goals per match.
Wow, yeah,
yep. I just don't see that happening in this one, to be honest. I really fancy unders in this one. I think it's going to be like a 1-0 or a 2-0. I don't see anything more than that. The under 2.5 is okay at 1.76. I think that's reasonable. I would maybe take United to win an under 2.5. I think that would also be a solid bet, but my money is going to be going on this double over at Palacebet, and we'll get to that when we go through the Champions League. But is there any other value, any other edge that you can see here, Simon? I mean, look, like you said, Villarreal haven't faced the toughest opposition. They've faced pretty tough opposition in La Liga. They've lost close games to Real Madrid and Barcelona. But I mean, neither of those teams did particularly well this season in their domestic leagues as well. So. Yeah, it just screams United, and I want to say United in the 90.
No, absolutely. I would also lean to the under here, but I think that United match winner is a more solid bet here. And look, I mean, the 1.85 doesn't look like big odds for a final, but as we mentioned earlier, if you look at the quality of opposition that both these sides have faced, I think that's it needs to be under even money, and that's where it is. So I think United all the way.
Yeah, I'd prefer for this bet to be at somewhere close, a little closer to evens.
Yeah.
But hey, it's still a great price, and I think that's where I'm getting involved. Let's jump over to the Champions League now, Simon, where we have an All English final. I'm sure everyone knows Man City versus Chelsea, and Man City are heavy favorites here. 1.83. Chelsea are the big dogs at 4.85. The unders line, it's looking to be an unders game at 13 to 20, 1.66 for the unders. And I fancy City here, but I can see a Chelsea win, which is why I'm going with my double. What are your thoughts on the match? Where do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, Well, just to set some context first, I mean, it's great to see two English sides in the final again. Although some people, I think, would have preferred,
I would have preferred that.
another European. Yeah, it's pretty cool though that almost two consecutive years. It was 2019 and now this year again that we've had two English sides, which is testament to the quality of the English Premier League, which I think most South Africans follow quite closely. Yeah. So that is a positive. It's going to be in Porto. It was actually moved from Turkey, if I remember correctly. I think, look, Chelsea upset the apple cart last time. I mean, they beat City 2-1, and look, they're slightly bigger odds this time for a repeat victory, if you will. And I think that's down to the fact that City have played pretty well in their last few games in the Premier League. But I'm finding it pretty hard to find a bet in this game, to be honest. I don't see a lot of value in the match odds, and not really in terms of goals either. I mean, I think some people will be quite tempted by the 7-2 odds. I mean, 4.5 on Chelsea. You said you liked the unders. I don't know. This is a tricky one for me. For me, if I look at these two matches, if I compare it with the Europa League, I think United definitely stands out to me. Whereas in this one, at the same price, I'm kind of just sort of standing. I can't really pull a trigger on this. I don't see any value in those odds. I think if I was wanting to back City, I would want to definitely be closer to even money. So this is a tough one to bet for me, I think.
Yeah, I fancy City here, but as you said, I'm not as confident on the City bets as I am on the one in United. Overs unders also a bit tough to call here, as you mentioned. I do fancy unders. I just think Chelsea are going to play a kind of negative game, and it sounds weird saying that, but they haven't been in the best form recently. And if you look back at some of the last matches, I mean, they've lost to some pretty minnow sides. Look, they have beaten some big sides as well, City included. But I can't make a case for Chelsea here. I can make an underdog case, but and I can't make a particularly 1.83 strong case on City here.
No, it is the final after all, and I think that these two sides are definitely more evenly matched than if we compare it. It's useful to make the comparison, I think, because these odds are almost identical to the Europa League game.
And these are sides that know each other very well as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's another thing to take into consideration. But I do have a bet. I've got a double, and it's over on Palacebet. I saw this yesterday. It is a bet boost, and it is Manchester City and Manchester United to both win their finals in 90 minutes. Was 5-2, is now 9-2 or 5.5. So your $100 bet on both of those teams to win is going to return $550, Simon.
Yeah, it's very decent. I mean, if you throw those two into a normal double, I think you're going to get somewhere. You're going to get under 4, right?
Yes. So if your 100 Rand on the double is going to return 350, and your 100 Rand on the boost is going to return 550. So quite a big boost there, especially for finals.
That is definitely a nice boost. Absolutely. I mean, often with bet boosts, you're only getting about sort of 15 to 20% value, whereas here you're getting about 50%, which is really, really good, massive. Actually.
And I'm a bit disappointed. I did put $500 on this one, and before the bet boost came out, I actually took United to win and City City double chance for a bigger bet for the final, and that bet's now looking absolutely terrible. Simply because I have the much better value bet on that double. And what's nice about this double, Simon, is you have cash out on it. So if Manchester United win their final, you can always cash it out if you aren't too confident on City cashing out, which is very interesting. I didn't know that Bet Boost had cash out available.
And I wonder if that cash out then would be on the enhanced odds or on the original odds. I imagine it would probably be on the original.
It's on the enhanced odds because I checked the cash out amount, and if it was on the original odds, I'll need to see what happens after the first leg is resulted, to be honest, because your cash out is always going to be lower than your stake before the events have started.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what the cash out is going to be there. I think it'd be best to tell after the first leg. Hopefully the first leg is the winner. But
sure.
I think it's great to have that option, especially if you're sitting and you're halfway through the second leg, which is the Champions League final. Maybe it's 0-0. Maybe Chelsea are looking ominous. Still cash out that bet, and I think you'll still cash out for a decent profit. So that's where my money's going this week. I've stuck 500 on that so far. I might have a bit more, but I am already involved. But that would be my recommendation. What's your bet going to be for the two finals, Simon?
So, I mean, I would certainly fancy United. I think United is a solid bet there. Look, I agree with you. I would have probably preferred closer to even money, but I just think United are going to win this game. It's that simple. I just think that they are stronger than Villarreal. They've had a harder run to the final, and I think they're the team there. I must say, I'm finding it much harder to pick a winner, especially looking at the odds, which you always need to, in the Champions League final. I think, look, obviously City are the correct favourites here, but I think that Chelsea perhaps are being a little bit disrespected here. But at the same time, I'm still not sure that 4.5 is big enough to coax me into a Chelsea bet. So I'm finding it really, really tough to find a winner there. But I suppose maybe a sort of a City and under might be the call for that one.
All right, great. So that's our predictions. Your City and under. I'm just looking to see if there's a price here, but we've got some predictions down at least. I think a draw is also, a good shot in that game, but I don't want to take it in a final. You just you never know what happens. I might get involved in some of the kind of smaller bets, first half draw, that sort of thing. Here we go. Man City and under 2.5 is 3.5. So you're getting 5-2. Well, was that a little less than that? 3.5. So
5-2. Yeah,
not bad at all. I mean, I'd rather take a value bet than take the City.
Absolutely.
I was taking a single bet.
For sure. I mean, I'd rather, and especially, for me, this looks like quite a hard match to bet. I'd rather maybe stake a little bit less and take a slightly risky bet and combine those two, the under 2.5 and the City win, because I think under even money on City is it's a little short for me.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. We've got some good bets out of this one, some interesting ones for the Champions League and Europa League finals. Hopefully it's going to be a profitable one. And I think we'll be back in a couple weeks. There's not too much soccer going on, so we'll probably come back in about 2 weeks for the F1. Maybe we'll see what's happening, and then we'll start with some kind of Europa build-up from there. But guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. Simon, thanks for joining us always, and we'll catch you in the next one. Guys, if you want to go check out this bet, go over to Palacebet and get that Bet Boost bet on. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to visit our site, Facebook and Twitter pages. Let's go make some money.